Need some ideas for your alcohol ink panels? Join me for some intuitive art with alcohol ink plus doodles. I'm Amber Rain Davis from notableink.com. Welcome back to the channel. I'm starting off with an 8.5 by 11 piece of photo paper. This is the Kirkland brand, and I've sprayed some alcohol on the back of the paper. The back of the paper is non-absorbent, and that's what you want to use for your alcohol inks if you don't have Yupo paper or another non-absorbent paper like that. I have an Altenew alcohol ink here. These are the artist marker refills, but you can also use them as alcohol inks. And I have a lot of colors, so I tend to use them mostly for alcohol ink projects rather than filling up my markers because I don't need to fill those very often. The color that I've used first is called Sand Dunes. And what I did is I recently purchased a bunch of the lightest colors in the color families that I really like. This is Misty Morning. I also bought Cloudy Sky, which is part of that same color family, and I'm going to use that color next. But I find that when I use alcohol inks, because the colors are so pigmented, even the light colors, I tend to only use the lightest colors. So rather than buying the whole set of 4 colors, I just bought the latest color in the sets that I wanted. I sprayed some alcohol on this, and I'm just using an air puffer to move the inks around. Now you want to be careful and make sure that you're using your alcohol inks and alcohol in a well-ventilated area. You can see here I switched to a pipette rather than spraying it. It's a little bit safer. I don't really ever smell any fumes with the Altenew artist marker refills, but again, you just want to make sure that you're using it in a well-ventilated area. So I'm going to add the Cloudy Sky, and it's a little bit leans more towards the blue rather than the green that the Misty Morning did, and I just think it's a gorgeous color. I love these 3 colors together, and I'm just going to drop a little bit of alcohol in there because alone I feel like these alcohol inks they're kind of sticky, right? All alcohol inks are a little bit sticky, so adding the alcohol or blender solution will thin it out so that you can get it moving a little bit more. When you're using the back of a photo paper, it's not quite as ideal as your Yupo paper. The inks and the alcohol are going to tend to move more on a Yupo paper. But I know I've said this in a ton of videos. I have a whole ream of this paper and I'm not printing out photos, so I might as well use it for this rather than buying the more expensive Yupo paper, and it does the job just fine. If I want to soften up some of these hard edges, then I just put some alcohol along the edge of the alcohol ink that dissolves it, and then I can just use the air puffer to move that around. I'm adding a little more of the Cloudy Sky where I feel like I need more contrast, and then I'm just using the air puffer to mix the brown and the blue a little bit. And I'll use the air puffer to direct some of the brown into the centers of these blue spots. You know I love flowers, so of course I'm going to doodle some flowers on these, and I think pushing the brown into the center of the flowers just gives that extra bit of interest and contrast that you need for the center of your flowers. Now some of the centers of my flowers are a little light, and so before I took photos, I added a little more of the Cloudy Sky to the finished piece, to the centers of some of the flowers, and you'll see that at the end. So here I have my Wow heat tool. This particular heat tool has 2 settings, a high and a low. So I have this on low, and I have it at least 6 to 8 inches away from the paper. You want to keep it moving and keep it far enough away from the paper so that it's not going to melt this plastic paper. Here I have the Nouveau Sunkissed Copper Gilding Flakes, and I've had these forever, and I'll be honest, like it gives me anxiety to even open this container because if you breathe too hard or you sneeze, those gilding flakes are going to go everywhere, you guys. They're so light. It is the lightest flake of copper that you've ever seen. So I highly recommend put your lid back on, take out what you need, put your lid back on, or just be careful not to blow too hard or sneeze because it will go everywhere. And so I'm just pressing this. So I ended up drying the majority of the alcohol ink. There was very little left over that was still kind of sticky. And it's because I didn't really think about these gilding flakes until I had dried most of it. I wish I had left a little bit more sticky. And I do end up adding a little more alcohol ink in places so that I can add more gilding flakes. But basically, you know, you have those thick areas of alcohol ink that are kind of sticky and gummy. You can press your gilding flakes down on those, give it a good press, and then you can just rub your hand over it or even use a dry paint brush and just brush off the excess that doesn't get stuck to that sticky ink. Anywhere where it's dry, it's not going to stick, but if you have that built up sticky ink, it will stick to that just fine. So I tossed the loose bits in the trash, and you can see how beautiful that color is, and I think it just goes great with this color palette. So like I said, I will add some more of this more towards the end of this project. So I've grabbed a couple Posca pens, and I'm using the Beige Posca acrylic marker. You certainly don't need to use Posca. You can use any of the acrylic markers that you have. And I thought beige would be a really pretty color with this to just add some kind of light highlights. It's you know, different enough color that you can see it in relation to the white paper, but it's not going to stand out too much. And here I'm just doing the stem. I'm going to put a little tree here, if you will. And with your acrylic markers, you want to make sure that you shake them. Right now, this paint is looking a little transparent. It's not completely opaque. So I'm going to shake up the marker again, press down the nib, and you can see now the circles that I'm creating have much more opaque paint. So make sure that you shake up your marker, press down on the nib to get the ink flowing or the acrylic paint flowing, and you'll be good to go. This is a 7mm or the extra fine bullet nib tip, and this is my favorite size tip. I really like to doodle with this size tip, so most often that's the size that I purchase. This is the brown Posca marker, and as always, all of the links to the products will be in the description down below, so be sure to check that out. If I missed something, shoot me a comment. If anytime you guys have questions, I will be sure to get back to you. I read all of your comments. I'm not always able to respond to all of them, but if you have a question, I try to make sure that I get back to those. I am going to put on a bit of music so you can just enjoy the doodling in peace, and I'll catch you back if I need to let you know anything or explain anything. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video if you've enjoyed it, and hit the notifications bell so that YouTube will let you know when I post a new video. This last pattern is super simple. I'm just putting a beige circle in the middle, and then I'm gonna come out with little spikes all the way around the circle. And then my video cut out, so you're not gonna see the last step, but basically what I do is I just draw a circle at the end of each one of these lines and fill it in with the beige pen. And I'll add 3 of these. I try to add patterns in odd numbers, but not always. You can see that the little kind of seaweed that you see down at the bottom in the upper right corner, which is called Any Shoe, it's a Zentangle pattern. I only added 2 of those. Here's the finished project, and I absolutely adore this color palette. I hope you guys enjoyed this project today. Really simple, just some doodles on some alcohol ink. It was really just something fun that I wanted to do, and I had a great time. I hope you guys did too. If you haven't already subscribed, do that down below, and I'll see you soon with more inspiration.